Production underwriting for Ruckus has been made possible in part by the generous contributions from Fred and Lou Hartwig and from viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. The Ruckettes are assembled and more than ready to enlighten us with their views of the news. We welcome Mary, Woody, Gwen, and Yale. Was it the fight of the century that proved to be a game changer, or another uneventful presidential debate where nominees stuck with their talking points and recited rehearsed one-liners? President Obama and Governor Romney squared off Wednesday night on domestic issues, including taxes, health care, and the national debt in the first of three scheduled debates. Early in the event, moderator Jim Lehrer asked the candidates how they would deal with the deficit.
I'm sorry, Jim, I'm going to stop the subsidy to PBS. I'm going to stop other things. I like PBS. I love Big Bird. I actually like you too. But I'm not going to keep on spending money on things to borrow money from China to pay for. So that's number one.
The way we do it is $2.50 for every cut. We ask for $1 of additional revenue, paid for, as I indicated earlier, by asking those of us who have done very well in this country to contribute a little bit more to reduce the deficit.
So it seems to me, Yale, that you are the least ideological of the panel members. So let me start with you. What is your impression about how Obama and Romney performed last night?
Well, let me start with how well Obama did. Let me talk about the good points he made. Okay, I'm done with that part. Let's move on to what Romney did. Romney looked presidential. He needed to do that. Romney made all of his points, and Obama refuted very few of them. Score another victory for Romney. And Romney, I thought, really did something that is important in the swing states, which is he made it appear that he does have a plan. He has a plan on the economy. He has a little bit of plan on the deficit. Now, there are holes in that plan, which all the political fact checkers are getting today to point out. But the important part of this debate was for Romney not to stumble, to actually meet the low expectations. And as I wrote in my blog post this morning, Romney crushes Obama. I think that Romney delivered on almost all of that stuff. And now, for all the Democrats who are, ready to jump off the building today, of course, there will be two more debates. Of course, previously, other people like John Kerry, won a debate, then lost the election. You are debating a guy who's pretty smart. Obama will figure it out and have some better zingers and all that kind of stuff. One quick point, I do think the debate, of course, I did a lot of tweeting and watching the things last night, which is an interesting way of watching the debate. But there were a lot of good points people brought up that, hey, he didn't really answer that question, he should have done that. And several people were interested that they actually got into the weeds. They actually talked about, they had all these numbers in their head and they threw them all out there. I thought Romney did a better job of saying, all right, here's 3 points. Now, he didn't necessarily finish all 3, but he looked like, no, I thought about that. I do have some answers to what the president's been saying on the campaign trail. So, just summed up, big victory for Romney, looking presidential. Obama stumbled. I think all the Democrats who are thinking Democrats today realize he did not look presidential last night.
Well, people, and I watched NBC, ABC, and some of MSNBC to see what people in the mainstream liberal media had to say, and as it's called, and to a person. Yeah. They all said this was a horrible evening for Barack Obama, and clearly the person who did much better was Mitt Romney.
Well, that's true. The president was listless. He was flat last night, and he just had a bad day. But I agree with Yale. He's going to be great with the comeback, I believe. He was a bit too professorial in his remarks. He came off as the professor, but Romney won on style. I think the president was more substantive in his comments, but people just he was too flat in his delivery of those.
Well, if he came off as a professor, it seems to me it was the absent-minded professor.
Well, no.
I expected much better. I think he's a superb public speaker.
Well, he is a great public speaker, but really as a debater, that's not necessarily his strong suit. He's more the conversational type. He didn't engage Romney last night, and he missed several opportunities to engage. He didn't bring up the 47%. Right. He didn't didn't take him to task on the flip-flopping. And, you know, and a case in point for the Democratic Party today, a big comeback will be to just poke holes in all of Romney's flip-flops last night. He switched on several policies last
Mary?
night.
Gwen's right. I mean, you got excellent points there, but I say the president didn't engage the nation. I mean, when you're president for 4 years, I can see where that would slip your mind that you have to do this again. And with all the caveats about what presidents have to do all day, in addition to preparing, that's not an excuse for not coming out and really just engaging the nation in selling your administration and what you plan to do for the future. Where the president did win was one place. And I really loved it, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. He's off and running, going to take off. And that was where he started to describe the effects of the Romney-Ryan plan on Medicaid. And he talked about his grandmother, Madeline Dunham from Kansas, who grew up in Kansas. I think she was born in Fort Leavenworth. And deep roots here in the Midwest, and how hard she worked and what a terrific life at the end of her life Medicare and Social Security provided. And then he went on to talk about the devastation that Romney's cuts are going to bring on all manner of people.
What do
who
you
are at the
expect
bottom.
this next presidential debate to bring? Do you think we'll see Romney as vivacious as he was on Wednesday evening? Do you think we'll see a revived Obama?
I think we'll see a revived Obama. I think the next format's better for him.
That's town hall.
Town hall for him. I think that's a better format for him. I think he is two things: conversational, as Gwen said. He's pretty good at that. What he's best at is oratorical. When he gets to get up and dominate the stage all alone, and nobody else gets to ask a question, and there are people who are better at that. And I used to do oratory and debating in college. We had guys who were great orators who didn't want to have anything to do with debate.
Right.
And so Obama's strong suit is oration, not debating. Look, I'm sorry, Dave Helling. I'm sorry, Yael Abahalka. The media is pro-Obama and anti-Romney. And it is therefore a form of debate prep every time Romney gets in front of the press. They're going to, like the Benghazi, Libya, Egypt thing, they lined up their questions to not let him get off the hook. That's okay. That's their job. They're not supposed to let him get off the hook. They don't do that for Obama. And
yeah,
that's
I do this
great.
for a living.
Pardon me. I do it for a living, too. They call it law and lobbying. And I'm telling you, he hasn't had the preparation the last 4 years that Romney's had for the last two, of just getting up against.
We got to move on to another segment, but let me ask all of you to comment quickly. Was last night's debate the game changer for this campaign?
It helped Romney.
No, it's not a game changer. It may have given Romney a little bump in the polls. It won't last.
Mary?
It could be if it's not followed up by a tremendous performance by the president in coming debates. I just wanted to remark, just very briefly, about the use of aggression.
I'm not going to be like Jim. I'm not going to be like Jim Lehrer last night and let people keep talking. Question goes to Woody. Is it a game changer?
It is not. If you mean that, does it decide the election? It is a game changer in the sense that Romney has now, he's moving toward closing the deal.
The momentum may have changed.
Yeah, he's
as a
moving
result
toward
of last
closing
night.
the deal, and he wasn't before.
Perhaps the second most watched political battle in the country is taking place right before our noses in Missouri, and many may be holding theirs as the Todd Akin-Claire McCaskill Senate battle continues. Over the past few days, some top Republicans have changed their minds and now support Akin. These are folks who withdrew support after Akin's well-known rape comment in August. The congressman's apparent propensity to say controversial stuff surfaced anew when he told reporters recently that McCaskill had not always been ladylike in their debate. Quick with a quip herself, McCaskill had this retort.
I mean, this is somebody who kind of makes Michelle Bachmann look like a hippie. He is.
It seems to me, Woody, that national analysts still seem to be writing Akin off, despite what some of the polls are showing or have been showing. Do you think they're right that you can write Akin off, or are they just too far removed from what's going on in Missouri to have a real sense of what's taking place?
Well, those two things aren't mutually exclusive. It may be right to write him off and still be out of touch with Missouri. They are out of touch with Missouri. People on the East Coast don't understand states like Missouri. But are they correct to write Akin off? Well, Not yet. And what I predicted would happen, what Yale predicted would happen, has happened. A, he stayed in past the deadline. And B, when he stayed in past the deadline and the Republicans in Washington looked at their map to get control of the Senate, some of them have got to step up with their checkbooks. Who didn't know this would happen? It was the obvious, most predictable possible outcome. And it's happening. And so the money will be there less for Aiken's campaign directly. His problem is going to be putting his own face on TV, because what I think the money will come in for are independent attack ads on Claire. But at some point, like Romney last night, you got to start to close the deal if you're Aiken. And if you can't put your own face on television enough to do that, it's tough to win.
The polling seems to suggest, as I understand it, Mary, that McCaskill is gaining and is 7 points ahead.
It's a gradual kind of incremental improvement that you're showing. I think Claire's task in all of this is really clear. I like what she's done in the last couple of weeks with just a steady course and continuing to show people where her voting record does fit Missouri Woody, does fit with that, putting her right in the middle. In addition to that, she has to respond to these continuing attacks that Todd Aiken is making, or I can call some of them gaffes, but the uncovering of a tape showing him opposing equal pay for women in the workplace. Now, Mike, I mean, that issue is something that left and right Republicans and Democrats have always agreed on, equal pay for equal work. And he thinks if you will go to work, you're a woman go to work, you ought to be able to be discriminated against in pay. That kind of stuff benefits Claire.
It's the way it is on Ruckus, equal pay for equal work.
Don't trick the audience, Mike.
Is ladylike a pejorative term?
You know, I was offended by the comment, and I think it just speaks to how archaic Todd Aiken's views are with regard to women, and to imply that because Claire takes an aggressive or an assertive tone in a debate means that she's not behaving ladylike is demonstrative of that. So, I think it's
so it is a pejorative term.
Yes,
in today's society.
I have to make my point.
Yeah, I know. I'm just summarizing to make sure your point was made adequately. Are you surprised, we wrap it up, that men of substance like Kit Bond and Jim Talent, who first said Aiken is unacceptable, now say he's okay and are supporting him?
Well, I don't know that I'm surprised. I'm a little bit disappointed. I mean, if you really are going to say, no, this guy should get out, now, as Woody pointed out, that I pointed out, it was all a game before, and so they really do want to win the Senate. Claire McCaskill will win in Missouri, unless when people get to that ballot, and they're going to vote for Romney. Romney's going to win Missouri. And they go to the next race and go, wait a minute, Republican. Oh, yeah, I'm a Republican. And they vote for the Republican without thinking about it too much. She has to have like a big swing there, and I think she will win, but it's going to be a tough slog.
I'll have a big swing to our next topic. Whenever you mix education and legislation, it is often controversial, and especially so in Kansas, where retention policies may be the next battleground. The chairman of the House Education Committee, Republican Steve Hubert, is talking about a measure that would retain third graders as third graders if their reading skills were insufficient for fourth grade work. Governor Brownback is also said to be interested in this kind of retention policy. It would contrast with what are called social promotions, where deficient students are often moved to the next grade to avoid embarrassment and discouragement. Mary, I know that you've taught in parochial schools over your career and public schools. I'm sure you've had to confront this kind of circumstance. How do you read this matter?
Well, I never taught third graders, but I don't know that it's not an issue in Kansas. I'm not familiar with this legislator. He has a bill that might come up in the next session. I think right now people that are serious in Kansas about education issues are very, very concerned about K through 12 education in terms of the just enormous cuts that are going to take place. There are two things that affect whether children do well in school, and that we all know about and that legislators can do something about, and that is class size and professional enrichment and professional growth for teachers. And those things are going to be dramatically affected again and again and again unless we get a legislative Senate and House that will stand up to Sam Brownback and take on this guy. He's got huge deficits facing him, Mike, and he's going to cut education again. And if he does...
But on the matter of retention policies, do you think they're positive or negative, or do you have any opinion?
I don't know what the guy is proposing.
He's proposing that third graders who can't read at third grade level stay in the third grade and not be advanced to the fourth.
I would like to hear what experts have to say about it. I don't think it's a good idea generally. No.
Are many of the problems we see in education today the policy of social promotions or giving diplomas for attendance records for showing up enough times at high school to get a diploma?
At some point, you have to demand more than that, okay? Whether it's at the third grade when you fail to read, I don't know. I'd like to read more about what studies have been done on this subject. In Massachusetts, for example, what they did is you can't graduate from the 12th grade from high school without passing the 10th grade statewide test. In Missouri, that would be viewed as a radical proposal to do that. It has served Massachusetts very well. They've led the country on national test scores at third and eighth grade levels like 3 straight times. Something has to be done that makes the educational process more than simply a socializing process. It's actually an educational process.
If you can't read, you can't master other subject matter areas.
But it's much more complex than that. I think when you look at this social promotion thing, you think, well, the kid can't read, we retain the kid. We haven't addressed what Mary talked about is teacher quality, which is one of the primary issues here. When children aren't learning, somewhere you need to hold somebody accountable for not teaching. And so then you're retaining a child, and to repeat the same thing for an entire year is not necessarily going to bring the child where he needs to be as well. You have to accelerate the learning process to close gaps, and that's the problem that's not addressed when you just say we're going to hold them back. Tell me how you're going to get them up to grade level and do that in a shorter period of time than an entire school year.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very good point. The knee-jerk reaction would be, well, yeah, if you can't read, you should not be going on. And in third grade actually is a pretty good factor in that. The second to fourth grade is very important. But I mean, when you're in kindergarten, first grade, you're learning to read. So by third grade, you certainly should be able to read. Now the question is, can you read at that level? And that's a little bit different. I do agree with Gwen that some of that is obviously teachers, and then it gets complicated. Well, it's obviously parents, and it's obviously the kid showing interest in doing it. Now, there are probably kids out there who don't care to read, and we know they're not going to have a lot of success in life unless they discover that spark, somewhere down the line. This particular, you asked, going all the way back to your question, you asked about this proposal. I don't think the proposal will actually go anywhere. It is too radical. It is a third grade thing where I don't think people are thinking about it. Right. The high school one that you talked about, Woody, that makes sense. Like, oh, okay, by then we've had way too many people graduating and going to college and not being able to do college
So you don't
work.
think much will happen in this next session of the Kansas legislature?
I think it'll grab attention.
All right. Kansas City Star columnist Tom Clanahan asks, when does a movement that once seemed reasonable begin to slip its moorings? What McClanahan worries about is government's increasing involvement in decisions about what and how much people should eat and drink. What and how much. It's not that McClanahan doubts that health issues are affected by obesity, for example, but he fears we're on a slippery slope where America's food Nazis are on the march. He cites efforts by New York City to limit the size of soft drinks in convenience stores and the federal government calorie standards for school lunches. Well, there's certainly a lot on the plate for discussion, Gwen. Let's start with you.
Well, I think the New York ban on the size of soft drinks, I think, is kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, a person wants a big gulp or whatever, let them have it. That's their personal choice, and I don't think you need to legislate that decision. But with regard to menus and school lunches, I think we've learned and we've come to rely on the Food and Drug Administration to provide guidelines around healthy eating. And I think it's important to teach those things in school. We teach everything else, and we should be teaching about healthy living, healthy financial management, all of those things based on what we've learned. I think that the schools, in terms of how they prepare menus for cafeterias, fine, but the parents still have a choice. If you don't want to buy the cafeteria lunch, send a sack lunch to school. It's no big deal. And we've learned, you look back at how far we've come with regard to smoking. You know, we've got this smoking tax coming up.
May I add that McClanahan says this all began with the anti-smoking
yes,
movement.
but you know, it used to be cool to smoke, and then we learned better.
Smoke cools.
And so we learned, and so we changed based on knowledge and based on experience. So, and with that, I don't see a problem with the government saying, you know, that research tells us that these foods are not good for us, and then we're over here talking about healthcare costs and Medicare and Medicaid. We need to teach healthy lifestyles early on.
And where's the winning point for the side on this debate that wants to have better eating habits? And yes, of course, you can go too far with the government, you know, shutting down a school for giving out a tater tot or whatever. And that's the kind of thing McClanahan, people like that will glom onto. But you know, kids hating school lunches. Wow, what a surprise. You know, I mean, they hated them when they were all fat. Well, now if they're going to be low fat, they'll probably hate them too. But the important part is kind of Gwen said, teach good eating habits. I mean, part of that is not just at lunch, but during school. Good financial habits. We'd be in a much better shape as a country. But I do think that if you go forward, if you flash forward 5 or 10 years from now, and lunches are healthier, and oh, by the way, fewer kids are getting obese, and oh, by the way, they're going to have fewer health problems in the future that save us money. Going to better lunches will be a long-term investment in better health.
Well, you know, let's talk about school lunch for a minute. I mean, this school lunch is one of the best things that ever happened. I mean, in terms of, you know, Harry Truman signed the school lunch bill in 1946 or 7 in there. You know why he did? Was because all of these malnutrition soldiers were coming and they were being turned away from the armed forces. And so over the decades, we've improved on school lunch. I mean, if you've ever taught a hungry child, and you look at what they look like and how they feel, and I've had that experience and had classmates that would sit with their lunch tickets starting at about 11 hanging on because they didn't have breakfast. And I applaud Michelle Obama for the work she's done to bring all this forward. We don't need anymore to feed them like government surplus cheese and you know, potatoes and things. We can afford to have fresh vegetables and, you know, salads and so on. Can't overdo it. The football players do need to have more calories. He's right about that.
Quick final thought, Woody.
It'd be great if the government knew what it was talking about. I recommend to you an article from the spring 2011 issue of City Journal. You can Google it and find it, by Stephen Malanga. And the subtitle tells it all: Washington's diet will make you obese and sick. They have been wrong so frequently since they got into this with advice in 1977, and he documents it there. And they are very controversial because they ignore any science they don't like and glom onto what they think is common sense, and that's what they publish.
All right.
It's not scientifically based.
And now we turn to Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes offer a claim or fix blame for people and events in the news. We start tonight with Gwen.
This is a roast to Todd Akin for his pejorative remarks about women and his archaic views on what is right for this country with regard to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, women in the workplace. You know, you're doing a great job to support Claire McCaskill's campaign.
A toast to Univision, Spanish language television, which tried to give the president some debate prep by actually asking him some tough questions in an interview, which he pretty well fumbled across the board. We are told that Mexican immigrants, legal and illegal, come here to do jobs Americans won't do. One of those jobs apparently is journalism, and the folks who speak Spanish over at Univision have decided to do it since the Americans won't.
Well, this is a toast to the Kansas City Parks and Recreation Department. When voters decided in August to give you more money, you decided to, well, open recreation centers as promised, restart a park inspection program that I personally think has been one of the best things that ever happened to Kansas City Parks, starting about 5-6 years ago. It actually monitors parks, evaluates them, and gets changes made in them. Those things will start up now, thanks to voter approval of the tax, and that's exactly what you should do when voters give you more money. Keep your promises.
Big development in Johnson County this last week, and a big toast to former Senator John Vrattle and former State Senator Tim Owens, both of whom describe themselves as traditional Republican, and they have taken the very important step in public to endorse the Democrat in the Senate races in the districts they would have served in. In the case of John Rattle, Mr. Delaney, Lisa Johnson, and Juanita Roy in Tim Owen's place. They joined Kyle Russell in a good Democratic lineup in Johnson County, traditional people endorsing traditional people.
Finally, I want to thank Rockhurst University for allowing me to be a guest at their Leadership Series luncheon. The speaker was my favorite columnist and commentator, George Will, who was, as always, brilliant and entertaining. The event was last Thursday, which coincidentally was my birthday, so I got to celebrate by seeing my favorite commentator that afternoon and watching the Ruckus broadcast that evening and seeing my other favorite commentator. And that's Ruckus for tonight. Be sure to join Nick Hayes for Kansas City Week in Review Friday evening at 7:30. Now, on behalf of the Ruckettes and the Ruckus crew, Mike Shannon saying thanks for watching and good night.
Production underwriting for Ruckus has been made possible in part by the generous contributions from Fred and Lou Hartwig and from viewers like you. Thank you.